Hey guys, this is Evan Karu coming to you with another video about my life here in Japan. So today I want to talk about a topic that has kind of been done to death, but I also wanted to approach it from a different angle and talk about some of my own personal perspective on this that I haven't really heard anyone else talk about here among the foreign community, the community of expats living here in Japan. So in Japan, there's kind of this phenomenon of, whenever you meet people, they'll say Nihongo Jozu, which means that your Japanese is really good. But even if your Japanese isn't good, people will say that your Japanese is really good, but it's almost this it's this weird thing because they're kind of like acknowledging the fact that you're not Japanese and that they can tell that you studied Japanese. And so it's kind of this backwards, backhanded compliment, right? And a lot of people don't like this because it can feel condescending. Even if you just say the simplest thing in Japanese, just like arigato, whatever, people will say, wow, your Japanese is really good. Nihongo Jozu, and it can kind of feel like people are making fun of you, or, it can serve as this reminder that you're a foreigner, which is, it's something that's kind of a separate topic that personally I often forget that I'm not Japanese because I'm just living my life here. And when you get to a certain point of living here long enough and kind of having a level of confidence, just walking around, people stop treating you like that more and more. And so, you can forget that you're not Japanese. And then when somebody does say, oh, Nihongo Jozu, or your Japanese is good, it can kind of bring you back into that reality of oh yeah, right, I'm not Japanese and I never will be able to have a conversation completely without that entering the list of things we're talking about, or kind of how people are perceiving me or how people are talking to me, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But when you're here for a long time, that can kind of be something that you have to think about. Am I okay with just never being treated like I'm supposed to be here ever? But I have a bit of a different take on that, because I've heard so many people talk about this, and it's just kind of one of the things that you talk about if you have a YouTube channel in Japan, is this Nihongo Jozu thing. And you hear it's on the Reddit, on the Japanese, the Japan subreddits, the Tokyo subreddit. People talk about this constantly. It's just ubiquitous with life here, is the Nihongo Jozu, and making fun of people, making fun of that idea of how people will react to you when you first talk to them. But personally, I think that I've noticed what Japan has really taught me more than anything is this idea that how you approach a situation and how you carry yourself and the energy you have going into that interaction is directly reflected in the way people treat you. And you see that more so in Japan as a foreigner than maybe anywhere else, because you do constantly stand out. And especially outside of Tokyo or Osaka or Kyoto, the big cities, people will have this aversion to talking to you, and how you perceive that and how you decide to carry yourself in that conversation, your level of confidence, how you try to take control of that interaction really affects the outcome and the way people feel about interacting with you as a foreigner. And I think a lot of people have an issue with that. It's well, why should I have to, I shouldn't have to put on a show or try to be someone else, or make other people feel comfortable with me. This is who I am, bitch. Especially a lot of Americans come here with that attitude. And I get that, but after a couple of years, you'll get that beaten out of you. It's just the way it is, because if you go into the conversation with that attitude, people will just be silent. It'll be awkward. That'll be that. And you'll end up just kind of congregating with other foreigners, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But after years and years and years of that, I think a lot of people start questioning why they're even living here, and they just go back to their own country, right? If you're just going to be hanging out with other English speakers or other non-Japanese people, why even live here, right? But for me personally, I think the Nihongo Jozu thing, or having people overly compliment your Japanese or kind of objectify you when they first meet you, I actually think it's been a really great opportunity for me, because it's kind of giving me this this chance to just kind of rehearse over and over and over again about how to take control of a situation in a nice, in a friendly way that isn't overly confrontational, but to just approach things with confidence, to take responsibility for how I'm contributing to the conversation, to take responsibility for how other people are feeling, or how much fun they're having or not having, or whatever. And maybe I've taken that too far. I probably have, where I started to feel like everything is my fault or everything is my responsibility. But it's also been a really huge integral part of my experience living here in Japan, of just overcoming that barrier, overcoming that situation, and learning how to come out of my own shell. Because especially, I think, before I came here, I was more shy. I was much more shy of a person than I am now, because Japan's forced me over many, many different scenarios to kind of take control of things and be confident and take responsibility for situations that aren't always fair or aren't designed with me in mind, right? And I think that's a way to kind of look at the Nihongo Jozu thing. Another kind of aspect to that is I think that people aren't, I think everyone knows this, and this is kind of what annoys people about it, but people aren't actually complimenting your Japanese. It's just kind of an acknowledgement that you've worked hard on your Japanese, and they're trying to give you credit for that and maybe encourage you, or it's, for me, more than anything, it's just a conversation starter. So whenever I hear Nihongo Jozu, I just immediately in my brain just translate it to, oh wow, I'd like to talk to you more and I don't know what to talk about, nice to meet you, or whatever. It's just a way to break the ice and kind of talk about something. So you respond positively to that, you're nice about it, and you just slowly kind of shape the conversation into what you want it to be. Right? And that's a skill, and it takes a long time to learn how to do that, and most people aren't good at it, and I definitely wasn't good at it. I'm a little bit better now, and I'm trying to just constantly improve. But yeah, the Nihongo Jozu thing really is just like, it's just like step one in the conversation. Now, like, does it get annoying and boring having the same introduction to every conversation with every person you meet? Almost like every time you go out here? Absolutely. And that's something that I kind of question myself, is like, do I want to deal with that forever? But at the same time, I do feel like the longer I've lived here, I've been here for about 10 years, I do feel like it has calmed down, and I think I've taken more control of it. There are more foreigners in Japan now. I moved to Tokyo, which really kind of lowered the frequency of that happening. And then I just feel more confident in my Japanese ability and my ability to just kind of quickly move on from that conversation. So I guess if you're thinking about moving to Japan, look at the, kind of that objectification over complimenting Nihongo Jozu thing. It's just an opportunity to test how you can steer the conversation in a natural way to what you want it to be. Okay? So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you would like to hear more of my kind of stories or my opinions about life here in Japan, my perspective, I'd really appreciate you supporting the channel. I hope you guys got something out of that, and I hope you have a great day or night wherever you are. Okay, see you guys.